Hello, everyone. We're here with Ned Kuruc, and we're here to talk about real estate and all things No, let's start over.
This is the only time we do takes.
Of course, yeah.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the only take. I would, if I was you, I would say, "Hello, everybody." Punch it up and be like, "This is the real estate talk, and our guest today is."
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, he's good. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are here with the Real Estate Talk with myself, Peter Muraca, and our special guest, Ned Kuruc. How you doing, Ned?
Not bad, not bad.
So Ned is somebody I'm very, very excited to have here talking with us. He is filled with a ton of information. He's actually somebody who, inspired me from a young age to become entrepreneurial. I seen you when I was a kid. I worked with you at the Attic and different other dabbling with businesses, and you always had your hands in different things, and you're always, pushing yourself forward. And it really did inspire me at a young age, to say, hey, you know what? I respect somebody like this who's hustling and putting his effort out there and putting himself out there, and I'd love to emulate some of that. And I like to think I did in a small way. So,
oh yeah, for sure, you've become successful. That's for sure.
Thank you for the inspiration, and I'm happy to have you here, and happy to discuss with you what your strengths, what the stuff that you do is right now currently, and let our viewers know how you can help them. So we'll start off. Just want to hear about you yourself, your entrepreneurial background, where it's come from, and where it's going today.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised, Stoney Creek guy, East End Hamilton guy. I knew very early on that I flat out couldn't work for somebody. That's when I think I realized that I was going to be an entrepreneur. At that time, I didn't really understand how and where, but I knew that I had to do something myself. The first opportunity that presented itself would be the Attic Pizza. I was 23 years old. We were approached by a family friend, me and my brother, because we were, my brother was running some businesses in Hamilton, and that was our first step into business. That taught me very quickly that business is business, and then there's real estate. That business opened up my eyes to real estate. So when we first opened the Attic, my very first goal was to buy the land that the Attic was sitting on. That would have been my first kind of entry into real estate, because I'm a big math guy, and when you're paying that much money every month out the window to rent, you kind of say to yourself, wait a sec, I got to own this land. And then that's kind of what we've done from that point. I've amassed some land here in Stoney Creek where my office is, the Attic, the apartment building. And then as I grew as an entrepreneur, I really quickly found out that all my net worth really was in real estate. And then that's what propelled me to go farther in real estate. So that's like a little quick summary of me as an entrepreneur, me as a person. I'm a husband, a father of 3. I'm a pretty private guy. I love my family very much, and I pretty much do everything for them, or my kids, I should say. Other than that, there's not really. I'm a hard, I work hard, and I really just put my head down and kind of move forward, right?
Definitely. And you have dabbled in politics a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the type of guy where I don't, much to my success and sometimes to my demise, I don't really think of things. I get impulsive a bit, and I think because of me being impulsive, that's why I've become moderately successful in business, because sometimes I don't think of things, I just dive right in. So absolutely. I have a very bold attitude, as you would know me as when we were younger and stuff. A lot of people, as they say there's a lot of people read books on how to do things, and then there's people that just do things. And I'm 100%. Definitely the person that does things and learns by being in the fire. So yeah. I've been in politics. I've owned very numerous different businesses. The Attic. We've owned nightclubs and bars in Hess Village. I owned a security company for a while. I have a very big tattoo parlor. Was one of my very first businesses that I bought and sold for profit. ATM business is a massive cash flow to my bigger business, which is Niku Investments. I have my real estate holdings, and currently we're venturing into something new, which is Niku Cannabis, so the legal cannabis space. So yeah, I've done lots of stuff, and I've profited all of them. So even though if it hasn't been a massive profits, I've either bought and sold and made a buck in all of them. So I haven't really failed too much. So I kind of proud of that.
And I think, I kind of go with the same philosophy of, a lot of times I just go for it.
Sure.
And I find that, I think it was John Paul Getty said 99% of businesses fail at the, in your mind. In your mind, exactly. You think about the idea, and then it dies,
100%.
And so it's like, I think it was Denzel Washington who said, dreams without goals are just dreams.
100%.
And so, a lot of times I think for people listening that, might want to dabble into some entrepreneurship, even if it's a side gig, in Canada, to take advantage of some tax benefits or whatever the case is, think about it and go for it. Like you said, you've done tattoo parlor, you've done the Attic Pizzeria, you've done a ton of different, and you've made money at all of them.
And I'm a mortgage agent as well. I mean, exactly what you've said. I think the biggest thing that prevents people from being successful is everything in their brain. I think people overanalyze things too much. I think people look at textbooks and books too much. And again, this is just my opinion.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But I think, as they say, fortune favors the bold. And I think if you're not bold, I think it's hard. It would be very hard to. Now we're speaking of wealth. We're not speaking of personal growth and other aspects.
No, and that's important too.
This is a business kind of forum, so we're speaking of wealth. And I think the only way to ascertain wealth is to be bold. It's okay to fail.
Yep.
It's people have gone bankrupt. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a social downfall or anything like that. But if you don't try,
100%.
If you don't try, if your chips aren't on the table, then how do you win?
Absolutely.
So I agree 100% with you in that sense, for sure.
Every great athlete, it's like Jordan says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
100%.
And so it really does, for me, echo. And I really do try to lead my business with boldness, like you said. And it's like, I'm just gonna take the risk. This year, for example, spending a lot more on marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it, and if I do, the hope is that it will work itself out. And I truly think, like anything, a lot of times, like, how do you become successful? And to me, it's just time in. It's how much time are you going to put into it, how much energy, how much effort, and if you do it and it's for the right reasons, and it will work out. So I always,
I agree. I mean, I realized on very quick too that I'm not going to become wealthy from a paycheck. I realized at a very early age, maybe it was because I had some predominant business people around me that I was able to kind of, I wouldn't say mentor, but they did become mentors.
Yeah.
That I kind of was able to keep learning and just pull value from people growing up. And I realized that the people around my family or whatever that were wealthy, they didn't have a paycheck. So there was no ceiling for them. There was no 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year. So naturally, if you think that way, you're going to go into business, and I did realize that very, very early on. Now, I mean, I've tried and opened and sold and been bought out of a ton of businesses, but they were all experiences that kind of molded my character in a way to kind of make me who I am today. I mean, I'm sure there's business that I was involved also in a gym, a Muay Thai gym as well, Iron Tiger and then House of Champions. I mean, we can go on. There's lots of stuff that I've done. But it's all been a process to get me where I am now and to get me ahead another 20, 30 years.
Yeah, like every single step you took built you to where you are today, obviously.
100%,
so,
100%.
There's never a negative in trying new businesses and trying to make something. Obviously, the more time you spend on one and the more you can perfect it, but it's definitely important to keep growing, keep pushing.
I think, to be honest with you, the downfall of what I see with entrepreneurs, and I'm no guru, and I'm not like, there's way more wealthy people than you or me or,
Oh, for sure.
But the one common denominator I see is that people become know-it-alls too fast. people just open up one business or do one thing, and now they're Bill Gates.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they know everything, and they've lost the ability to learn. And I think losing that ability to learn, you've just capped yourself on being an entrepreneur or being involved in real estate. We can apply that to real estate a million different ways. So many guys have made money buying one piece of real estate and never bought another one. And I look at them and say, well, why wouldn't you duplicate that 2, 3, 4 times over? They bought one piece of real estate, they made money, and now they're a know-it-all. They know everything, and they've essentially stopped. And, so there's, in that sense, I just see it all the time. And that's where sometimes I even go into certain things just saying, how will this expand my growth, or how will this expand my mind, right? So I've gone into businesses that I've gone either sold or just said, it's not for me, and kind of, got out of it, but I learned something from it. So,
yeah, and again, I just want to say, I think a big difference of entrepreneurial mind from somebody that's not so entrepreneurial is, entrepreneurs seem to be very solution based, and we kind of are a little bit eternal optimists in a way. Sure. And so it's like, not that we don't take note of the negatives, but we don't make them a sticking point. It's like, how can we make this work?
100%.
Instead of, well, this sucks, this won't work, this person might die.
We're problem solvers, we're not problem makers.
Yeah, so look for solutions, push forward, and grow.
From the age of 16, if I would have listened to all the naysayers, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. It was 100%. breaking through that negative rhetoric that made me an entrepreneur and made me moderately successful. Like, how many people, no, don't do this. I know a guy that did this and he failed. Why are you buying that piece of real estate? Don't buy rentals. Yeah, don't buy
their
this.
Headaches, the tenants.
You got to be careful. You got with this and that. But then when you talk to a successful entrepreneur, it'll be different. It'll be like, great idea. You know what, you should look into that. Maybe be cautionary on this, but yeah, you're on the right track. Do you need help with financing? These are the problems you're going to face. So depending on who you talk to will navigate how you go in your business, right? You got to trust in yourself, you got to trust in your gut, and you got to talk to people that are involved in that business. You don't talk to people who have never gone into business or don't own real estate to buy real estate.
Exactly.
Right? So
talk to a professional. Talk to somebody that knows what they're doing, that has done it, and they're obviously going to be able to give you the best information. Yeah. But I agree. I've had situations where, I borrow private money, of course, at 10%, to make a move, to build a house or to do something. Sure. And most people are, you crazy? That's like 10% on 5. That's $50,000 a year in interest. Yep. But it's like, okay, but if that 50 makes me 100, it's worth it. Yep. And so, it just, whereas some people won't even build it because they'll say, well, I don't have the money. Well, here's a solution.
No, the biggest downfall in today that I can see in real estate, or people ascertaining real estate, is they're too fixated on the rate. And that is now real estate for business, real estate for your matrimonial home to live in. Yes, you're going to rate shop. You're in it for 25 years, so it makes sense to look at the rate and really zero in and try to get the best rate. But if you're going into commercial real estate, flipping, rentals, and this and that, I've seen people stay stagnant for 3 years because they don't like the rate of 0.5% or 1/4%. And like you said, I've used tons of private money, and a big part of my business is private money. But these are the people that are moving forward. They're finding a solution. And there's nothing wrong with high rates, so as long as you build it into your business model and you get the return at the end. What's wrong with it?
No, nothing.
I mean, do you think
obviously, ideally, you don't need to.
Yeah, do you think?
But I'm not at a point right now, so I use it.
100%.
If I need to use it, I'll use it, and ideally, I get to a point where I'm letting the money out.
Yeah, well, that's where you want to go on that real estate scale. But there's so many clients that come in and say, "Oh no, Ned, I can't." No, I mean, when I bought my apartment building, I mean, the first rates I was subject to were like 6.5% with Home Trust. Yeah. Then I found Meridian and got it down to 4.5%, and now I'm with RBC and I'm sub 4. But that's the journey I took. But if I would have said at that point, there's no way I'm paying 6.5%, this is crazy, I wouldn't own that real estate, and I wouldn't have tripled my money on that piece of real estate.
100%.
So I mean, it's a giant problem where people don't look at the math and they get emotional. they look at all these rates and they listen to people in their family or their peers that have nothing to do with real estate and say, oh, that's crazy. How are you paying 3%? You should be getting, 2.5%, or you should be getting blah, 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 this and this and this. And they don't spend enough time actually talking to professionals and outlining the mathematics, because business is math. There's no emotion in business. Sure. If the math runs and it makes sense, pull the trigger.
100%. I have friends that literally so I got into real estate about 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
And at that time Hamilton was considered,
the golden egg.
It was not Hamilton today.
No.
Right? It was considered
but
like
investment opportunity was massive.
But people still, so when I first 9 years ago, people were still like,
Yeah.
Like north of Barton, you still couldn't get a mortgage.
No, they were blacked out zones
Yeah.
back then. Yeah.
And so I was seeing houses and I was telling my friends, guys,
Yeah.
let's start buying stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put a group together to try to do it.
Yeah.
And everybody had, well, what if this guy dies? What if this guy does?
Yeah.
And there's always, so I did it myself.
100%.
And I bought, $100,000 house and $118,000 house.
Yeah, you were the one of the first guys from the creek that was going out. I wouldn't even go to those areas back then. You were, and I probably was one of the guys saying you're crazy, but you saw something and you were bold enough to, because it was out of necessity because you didn't have wealth.
Exactly. If I could have paid $300,
so you wouldn't have bought in those areas. But because you only had a limit to what you could spend, you were forced to go in those areas. But you really could probably attribute most of your wealth today on that real estate you own there.
100%. Like the houses that I bought for 118, 132, 158, 198, 213 are all now at least 2 to 3 times
at least
more than they were.
$500,000 and above.
Yes, and so it's like I seen the potential then, because I was getting phone calls from Toronto investors.
Yes.
And then as soon as the GO train came, we started getting Toronto end users.
Yes.
And now you're seeing that continue. To Stoney Creek, to Beamsville, to all the way to Niagara. And
the way to Niagara. And even out to Brantford, out to Caledonia. Lausanne's doing 1,000 builds out there.
Exactly.
Port Dover, like these areas
Brantford,
that we would have never.
100%.
Brantford, Brant County, all these areas we would never looked at even 10, 12 years ago.
100%. And to me, it's like, especially for your principal place of residence. Like I think as a business side of it, you have to be more, more shrewd and really look at the numbers.
You have to.
When you're at your principal place of residence, what I tell people is, jump in.
Yeah.
Because, I have people, like I said, for 7 years saying, oh, the market's going to dip. The market's going to dip.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just going to save some more money.
Yeah.
You, especially the last 7 years in Hamilton, you weren't seeing the historical 3% increase.
Yeah.
You were seeing 7, 9, 10, 12% increases.
Yeah.
And so, when you're getting those, good luck saving, at the rate of inflation. Like, so...
Yeah, there's people that missed that massive opportunity. The pessimists in real estate
for sure
have been waiting for some sort of downfall, which periodically happened for 3 months in 2017, I believe. Happened now.
Small dip.
At the beginning of COVID, it happened, but now we're firing on all cylinders again. What can I say to that? I mean, I have clients and friends that have been waiting, and they just ended up buying a house 4 years later for double the money than they could have 4 years ago waiting for the fall.
100%. And so,
what do you? Yeah.
Like I'm assuming you'd be on the same page, especially your principal place of residence. If you plan to be there 5, 7, 10 years, buy it. Even if it's $20K more than you think it might be worth, $30K, you're gonna get it back over the 15. 10.
100%. Because people, when they like to do math, you have to do math. You have to be systematic in how you do the math. There's business and your business side of your real estate portfolio, and that's where you live. And then there's where you live. If you pay more for where you live and you feel like you're waiting for this downfall, you're going to pay rent anyway somewhere. So why wouldn't, there's no loss, because how do you put a price on raising your family in a house that you own, pride of ownership, getting started in the credit machine by owning a property, building equity to, without that principal residence, which is should be or most often is your biggest moneymaker in real estate. I bought and sold a ton of homes that me and my wife first lived in, and that's how we built our worth to get to where we are today. You've done the same thing, but people look at that and you live in it for a year, you're tax exempt.
Yeah. That's the other beauty of it.
So then you kind of scratch your head and you're like, okay. And then you get the naysayers that will say, well, no, Ned, the wealthiest people, they rent, they don't own. Well, yeah, if you're worth $1 billion, I get it. I get the reason why they would, but ain't no one around here worth $1 billion.
No,
we all started from essentially zero. So how do you make that for like it's statistically the fastest way to become a millionaire is through real estate. We know that.
Yeah.
You know that.
Made
I know
more
that.
millionaires than any other industry.
That's where I made all my money. I didn't make it by slinging pizzas. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
It was a cool paycheck, but it's the real estate that we owned underneath the pizza parlor, the attic that made me real wealth, or that makes me have wealth.
And I think we can also. So two things I want to touch on. One is, I really think for small businesses especially, owning real estate is your retirement fund,
100%.
and if you can, I have a buddy who ran a shop. He's paying $6,000 a month in rent.
Yeah.
And I said, brother, if you stop paying rent for $6,000,
yes.
$6,000 is how much of a mortgage?
Over
$1 million?
1.2.
So 1.2 million. I said, if you it's crazy. So, and then if you combine it with your house and have a shop, you're literally living for free.
100%. Yeah.
And so, changing the mindset of business owners to say, listen, you're gonna make a lot of money by actually buying the property. The other thing I think that we need to shift people's mindset is, stop looking at your house as a house and start looking at it as a checkings account. Like so many people, like our parents' generation, a lot of them are. It's the old mentality of save, have zero mortgage. And even if they're living tight.
Yeah.
They're to me, it's a disservice to themselves.
Yes.
You have a $800,000 home that you owe $0 on, but you're living literally like on your pension tight.
Yep.
Why not take $300,000 of it out, invest it in, second mortgages, for example.
Sure.
Make yourself $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
And
why not just invest in another piece of real estate? I know so many people that
lots of different options.
Own their own business, and they come to me, and commercial mortgages are a little bit difficult to get.
Yeah.
More difficult than residential. And I say, okay, well, what's the equity on your home? Oh, Ned, I don't want to touch my home. Yeah, but you're buying a more bricks and mortar that are only going to really go up. There's no real risk, and we've gone through a lot. We've gone through change of governments, we've gone through COVID, we've gone through ups and downs. Me personally, I don't see the risk. No,
and especially I think when you think of, even if the market goes down, that means rental market goes up.
Sure.
Like, if people have to sell their home,
yeah.
they're going to have to live somewhere. So that means they're going to rent.
Yeah,
so,
in
rental markets will go up.
100%. In the talk of real estate, you can now dive into real estate and categorize it. I have friends that love commercial real estate. I personally love rentals. I love apartments. People love townhomes. Nobody's wrong, but you can diversify.
100%.
You could hedge your bets.
Some condos,
100%.
some duplexes, some
like for me
commercial
right now, commercial, because I don't need more of it. I'm not looking for it. Am I looking for, small apartment buildings and stuff? Sure I am. The number one thing I've personally invested in the last 3-4 years, say 5 years, and probably the only thing I've invested on real estate other than the other side of funding real estate, is pre-con condos. I can't say enough about them.
Yeah.
I love them. As a realtor, you've sold a ton of them. You have introduced clients to certain projects that have increased their wealth dramatically for just making one move, being there one day on the signing day,
and putting some money
in the middle.
There's an example of using your home equity,
sure,
to go buy another project, right?
Sure.
So you're 50, 60 years old and you have no mortgage, and you say, hey, you know what? I'll take 50, 60 out, go buy a pre-con, sit back for a year and a half, 2 years, and make 60 to 100 grand. And so
let's analyze that process for a sec, because I can't advocate it enough. If you're a person that has no money in the bank but you have equity, you can go get a loan for your down payment for a pre-con. If you're going to buy something around $300,000, you're going to need 50 to 60 grand, correct?
Yep.
Okay. You can go to multiple builders in Stoney Creek, anywhere really.
Yeah.
You know where they are, we know where they are. Someone can just call you and you'll find it for them.
Yeah.
You're going to go in, you're going to buy something, a 1-bedroom for $300,000. You're going to hypothetically put in your $60,000. They're going to take 2.5 years to construct. Out of all the projects I've been in, I've never made less than $100,000 over two and a half, 3 years. Now, if my $300,000 condo, which I now can sell for $400,000 to $420,000, minus the HST, minus the realty fees, minus everything, if I'm left clean, white meat, $80,000, and I only put in $60,000, that's a 38% return on my money every year for 3 years.
It's amazing.
Where are you going to find a 38% return on your money?
Can't.
Find me. You cannot.
No. And
I've searched.
And with little to zero work.
Complete passive.
Yeah.
That's complete passive. This is after you pay the realtor, after you pay your capital gains, and after you pay your HST, which most people don't know when you buy a condo on signing, you got to pay HST.
Yeah.
After all of that, even if your 60 comes back with 60 and you have 120, it's a 33% return on your money. I know people in Toronto that have gone onto this game 10 years ago who have become multi-millionaires with that one little area of real estate, which is maybe represents 5% of real estate in general. I know people that have bought in one condo, then they've sold, take those profits, bought 2, then 4, then 5. But people say, well, Ned, what if I can't get the mortgage? That's fine. Use private money.
Yep.
Use private money at 8% right now. That 7-8%, close the deal, list it. What's the private money going to cost you? The private money is going to cost you maybe 1% broker fee, 1% lender fee, maybe $6,000 with some payments, maybe 7-8. What's a mortgage going to cost you to break?
Probably 6.
It's probably 10.
Yeah.
People don't look at one of my principal rules in business and real estate is understanding your finish line. People who call me and say, Ned, what do you think about? I always ask them, what's your finish line? If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So if you don't know, if you say to yourself, I want to buy this condo, hold it for 3 years and sell it, or buy it and sell it, or buy a property and flip it, you have to know that. Then you have to allocate what's it going to cost to fund it. Sometimes private money actually comes out cheaper, as you know.
Yeah, if you're going to sell it right away.
Because I can sell a mortgage to a guy on a flip and get him, 2.1% today. Oh, thanks, Ned. Wow, you're the best. And then there's a caveat to that. I'll say, but when you sell it in 6 months, you're going to get hit with a massive payout. No, it's 2. And then I say, you're better off going with 7% private. Oh, no, you're crazy. I'm never going to pay 7%. Yeah. Construction happens. Yeah. He goes to list it with you. 7 months later, he goes to break his mortgage. He gets smacked with $10,000 penalty. So you gotta. First, you have to find a professional that can explain all this, because some people don't. They're just worried about the sale. And then you have to be open-minded, because most of us grow up with parents saying, cheap rate, cheap rate, cheap rate, don't pay interest, cheap rate, get a cheaper rate, cheap rate. Sometimes it's not the best thing.
100%. You in all business and all in life, you really need to look holistically at the whole 100%. Thing. And know that you know nothing. That's Socrates' comment. Yeah. Because, if you just start with a blank slate when talking to a professional, they will explain stuff. And if you don't have your preconceived notions of, interest too high, you might actually learn something.
Yes.
And so, it's definitely important, I think, for people to, talk to professionals like yourself. Yeah. And then just open mind, right? Have a blank slate and just listen, and then make a decision.
If you don't have a finish line, and
I agree.
This is real value. This is 100% value. If you don't know what you're going to do, how are you going to get there? If you don't know if you're going to start a 100-meter race, but you don't know where the finish line is, how do you now control that 100-meter race?
100%.
How do you have the front, middle, and the end of the race to run it efficiently and get the best time possible?
I have this question all the time. So yesterday I had a client call me and she said, hey, do you think I should sell my house? Market's hot. And so, I think most agents would be like, yeah, sure, let's sell your house. You're going to
chase the commission.
Right?
Yeah.
But my comment is always, well, what's your plan?
Yeah.
What's your goal? Why do you want to sell? Just to take money?
Yeah.
If you're just going to sell right now and you're just going to sit on your money, well, don't do it.
No.
And I don't care that I'm costing myself a deal.
Yeah.
To me, it's for me as a professional, not only do I have a legal obligation, duty of care, but, I truly do care about people's path? Where are you going in real estate? Is your goal to sell this for what? If it's to sell it right now to go invest in some other stuff and make some money on this, like to make more money because you think the market's really hot right now, so you might sell 1 or 2 of your properties to diversify and hedge your bet a little bit. So if the market does come down, I made some really good high returns on this property, and then I'm going to take that money and spread it out into maybe some stocks, maybe a brand new condo, private mortgages that you also do. That if you do need private mortgages or regular mortgages, call Ned. But is that what your goal is? Because if that's the case, then let's sell one and let's diversify and let's talk about a plan.
It's got to make sense. It's got to make sense. And what people don't in our positions, your position more on the sales side, my position on more procuring somebody the money. We're helping people with essentially the biggest decisions of their lives. And if you're just commission-based or goal-orientated, you probably won't you'll do okay, but you probably ain't going to make a lot of friends along the way. Because even right now, if someone was like, oh, wow, I can sell my house for $1 million, what are you going to buy? The next house over is $1 million.
It has to be.
So it's got to make sense.
100%.
It's got to make sense. People come in. I've had a massive wave of people coming in saying, Ned, what are the rates? We're at an all-time loan rates, sub 2%. And they say, is it worth me refinancing? Well, yeah, it is.
100%.
But I can't say right away. First thing I ask them is, let me see call your mortgage company.
See what the penalty
is.
That makes sense.
Then if it's $10,000, I can say, then give me your docs. I can figure out what I can save you. And then when I find out what I can save you over 5 years, let's do the plus minus. If the juice is worth the squeeze, let's do it.
Pull the trigger.
It's not, it's not. But I can't just say, yes, let's get you a mortgage and refinance you at sub 2. You gotta know, there's a level of care there. There's a level of ethics,
professionalism, ethics
that you need.
100%. Sure. So now we're talking a little bit more about mortgages. When did you get into mortgages? Tell me a little bit about mortgages, rates right now that you just touched on.
Sure.
But go into more detail about your mortgage.
I got
life.
into mortgages in 2009, so it's been 11 years.
Yep.
I got into it because I was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman by the name of Jorah Prewal, who's a big-time broker out of Mississauga, and he was really instrumental in teaching me how to buy real estate and teaching me the ins and outs and so really it all kind of started with him in 2006 is when I bought my first real estate. And then I kind of said, you know what, I like this. I always liked the idea of being in that type of business. So then he said, hey, why don't you come on board? And the rest is kind of history. That's how I got into mortgages, and I'm able to facilitate commercial, residential, residential, and the big one is alternative or private lending, which, as you know, has become massive over the last 5 years. Our head office is based out of Mississauga. My office is in Stoney Creek, next to the Attic Pizza, 91 King Street East. It's a by appointment only office. As you see, we're here now. I don't have a big production here. I focus on just getting deals done and using my expertise to kind of help people. Rates-wise, we are now at an all-time low, where I have a variable rate if you qualify at 1.65%. That's unheard of.
That's free.
Yeah, that's free.
Sounds
money.
free.
That's free money. Fixed rates starting at 1.85 if you qualify. What can I say? The government has been smart enough to understand the strains of COVID and understand they've understood how important the real estate market is to the Canadian economy and how that wheel needs to keep turning. And they've provided some sort of stimulus in keeping rates low, which will probably be low for the next year to 2 years. Is it a great time to get into real estate based on rates? Flat answer is yeah. How can you say no?
And what, well, I definitely have seen it on our end, like right now there still is. So I did a little video a while back where I said, even though CMHC said we expect the market to tank 18 to 20%, not only did I get upset and say, well, screw you, CMHC.
Yeah.
There's Genworth and Canada Guarantee. You're not the only player in the park, so you guys are going to take a hit.
Yep.
But more importantly, I think the fastest growing city, and I think I've said this a few times, fastest growing city in 2019 was Toronto.
Yep.
77,000 new residents.
Yeah.
And that's in North America, not just Canada. So, second fastest was Portland.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to continue to grow. Canada still is amongst the top places to live.
Yeah, of course it is. People will sell their,
Yeah, exactly.
They'll give anything to come and live in this great country.
100%. And so, I just think that we have so much upside still. Like, globally speaking, we are still cheap. I know it seems crazy, like Toronto prices are crazy, but you go to, you've traveled the world.
Yeah.
Compare London, England,
London, Paris,
Shanghai,
New York, Melbourne, Sydney. The list goes on and on. You can
San Francisco.
You can start going into.
We are still cheap.
Yeah, we're still cheap.
And so, that gives me hope that we still do have a lot of room to grow here. And so, I definitely still think that with the rates what they are today, I think it is a good time to buy still.
It definitely is. The only thing that's changing in the mortgage world is, and it's a topic I've touched on in another YouTube video that I did. People, there's a couple do's and don'ts. As you know, mortgages are harder to get. They are tightening the criteria.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How hard is it to get approved?
A lot harder than it was 5 years ago. Way harder than it was 10 to 15 years ago. Let's start 10, 15 years ago. You needed a pay stub, a job letter. That was it. And they would pull your credit score and you'd be good. You could essentially, you could have 5 houses. They wouldn't be on, the mortgages wouldn't show up on your credit score. Now they do. People don't understand that Canada's lending is based on income and debt to service ratio, monthly income. So I'll get a lot of people saying, well, great, Ned, I do construction. I make $100,000 a year, but I only show $18,000 a year. No.
Can't help
Those days are essentially finished.
Yeah.
If you want good rates, you have to, this is to all those small business people, you gotta stop jamming the system and pay your taxes. You have to. If you want to function and grow, if you want to own one house, and that's it, then fine. I'm not the guy who's going to tell you how to run your business and pay or not pay taxes. Most people do pay their taxes, but they just have a million write-offs, so their income is nothing. If you want to enter the real estate world as a business, first rule as a business, incorporate, have a holdings company, and you got to run that company for 2 to 3 years. After you do, all the banks will open their doors to you. You cannot run in, you've had this problem years ago where you had everything, and I did. We put everything on our personal name. Yeah. And then the debt to service ratio goes out of whack and you can't borrow any more money. But the people who put it in a corp and pay their 40% on their profits and all that, now you're doing it the proper way. When you do it the proper way, would you rather have 2 houses on your personal name or have 50 in your corporation after 20 years?
100%.
Right? So people need to understand you got to play by the rules. And when you play by the rules, you'll have no problem getting a mortgage.
I totally agree. So I think, 15, 20 years ago, a lot of felt cash is king.
Yes.
And I think that's gone. The new thing to me is credit is king.
The most valuable lesson I learned in business, this is the most valuable one. When I was 17 years old, a high net individual from this city said to me, I'm going to teach you something. And this year, if you can figure this out, you'll be successful. He said, you're only worth what you can borrow.
100%.
And I kind of looked at him and I said, what do you mean you're only worth it? He goes, you can have $200,000 in a shoebox and bury it in your backyard. What are you going to do with it? Nothing. But if I can borrow $2 million, that's what you're worth.
100%.
And I've stuck to that rule and paid my taxes and, established businesses the right way. And that's why some people see me and go, well, how the hell did he pull the trigger on that piece of real estate? Because the banks like me. I play by their rules. It's a game. Learn the game and play by it. Yeah. You're only worth what you can borrow in this country.
Yeah. So
cash is going to get you virtually nowhere right now.
Yeah. Credit to me is king. And I tell 100%. That to every young person I can, old or young. credit is number one, you
Yeah.
know. And so 3 things to get a mortgage: credit,
Yeah.
income, total service debt ratio. Would
Well,
you agree?
I would agree. So the 3 major things that I ask when someone calls me is I say, now let's talk about houses. Okay, let's not talk about commercial real estate.
Yeah.
2 different spectrums.
2 different beasts.
On real estate, residential real estate, what's your down payment?
Yeah.
What's your credit score? And what's your income? Reported income.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're doing
Made 50K
tiles
on the
and
side.
You're making, you're doing construction and hauling junk and all these cash businesses don't matter to me. What's your reported income? What's your credit score? And what's your down payment? Without a down payment, you ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, a down payment can come in various forms. Can a down payment be gifted from your parents? 100% it can.
Yeah.
Can your down payment be gifted from a brother or a family member? Yes, it can. So if your parents want to give you $100,000, yes, you have a down payment. So that's, most people think, well, I got no cash, but they have family that's willing to lend it to them or give it to them. So that's number 1. Number 2 is credit score. People don't know their credit score enough. That is your blueprint of financial life if you want to buy anything. Go to
1000%.
Equifax.ca. Top left-hand corner says products. Scroll down, compare products. Go past all the green check marks. In blue letters, it'll say, pull my one-time credit score and report. Pull this, know your credit score. If it's bad, call someone like me, or even you understand credit scores. Figure out how to improve it. Carry this credit score with you. Don't let agents pull your credit score, because if they do, 10 points gets taken off. Give it to the agent. It's enough for them to get started. Know your credit score. Without that, you're dead.
And that 10 points might be the make or break.
I tell clients all the time, 680 is auto approval. If you're at 680 and I pull your credit score, you're at 670, I just screwed me and you. Doesn't ethically, that's why I don't pull credit scores.
And I tell some of my clients this, and they're like, why would I have to pull it? And, it's like, well, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
But you want to save 10 points.
If you're shopping,
yeah.
If you're going to come see me and you're going to go see some of my other competitors, which is fine.
Save your credit.
Give them your credit score, right?
Yeah.
And then, the third thing is, what's your income? Quick rule. If you put down 20%, you should be 5 times your income is what you should get as a mortgage. If you're going to put down 5 to 10% or 15%, it's times 4. So the biggest misconception today is that someone's like, oh yeah, man, I make good money. I make $75,000 a year. Okay. Yep. Good for you. Yeah. I want to go and my budget's $800,000. No, it's not. $75,000 times 4, you're now looking at a $300,000 mortgage, $50,000 down payment, $350,000. What are you going to buy for $350,000, Pete?
Condo.
Yeah. So the problem is people are detached from reality as well. If you have 20%, then you're going to have $375,000. That's how serious mortgages have gotten. It's not a game. There's no wiggle room or leeway. You get what I'm saying?
100%. And what about rental? So the big thing I try to tell my clients is, especially first-time home buyers, maybe you don't love the idea, but maybe to get you your first house, it needs to be an income property. So
Sure.
Maybe we can offset. You live in the basement for a few years and you rent upstairs for $1,800.
Yep. Great solution. There's a lot of clients that come in and say, and I always say, let me see the MLS listing. They'll say, does it have a finished basement and a kitchen? Well, why are you asking that, Ned? Well, to get into that house, to get your first step, you might have to rent that basement for, $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Oh, really? Can we do that? Of course you can. I can use that income to use as your income to get you into that bigger property.
100%.
You have to understand, people need to understand the climate we're in. Houses are stupid expensive.
Yeah.
And they have been. So there's other people that, like, when I'm 39, you're mid-30s, when I argue with older people in their 50s, they say, oh, well, yeah, they should, and I say, no. What people don't understand is, I say to a 50, 60-year-old person, you buy your house for $200,000. Now sympathize with someone who's 25, 35 years old now, that entry level in Stoney Creek is what?
At least $550.
At least $550. So then I asked those older, what would you do if your entry level was 550? And it blows their mind. But you have to understand the climate we're in. So if you have to find a property with a rental basement or an alternative solution,
at least to start.
At least to start. It's not a bad idea. I've had people use private money just to get in, and 1 year later, we get them with a bank.
Yeah,
I mean, there's lots of solutions.
One of my clients, Jordan Campanelli, he just bought, and he's 23 years old, and he makes he works at Suncor, makes a pretty good salary, somewhere in the 80K range.
Yeah.
And 6 months ago or so, he's still living at home.
Yeah.
But he said, I want to buy a property,
Yeah.
you know, and so we started talking, and so we bought him an income property.
Yeah.
Basement was unfinished. He bought it for $450,000-ish.
Yeah.
Little over maybe 6 months to a year max.
Yeah.
And so he rented the upstairs for $1,800.
Yeah.
So $450,000, put 5% down. So he's probably about a $2,000 mortgage ish.
Yeah.
So he rent upstairs for $1,800.
Yeah.
He put $30,000 into finishing the basement, and so you know, we just listed it last week. We had 10 offers, 2-bedroom apartment, $1,650. So $1,650 for his basement, $1,800 from upstairs.
Yep.
So he's actually cash flow positive by about $700-800.
If you factor in the taxes and a couple things, maybe he's not, but he's there. He's there.
Yeah, he's close.
Yeah.
You know,
100% he's there.
And
what a great solution for a guy who's 23.
Yep.
Who our generation of guys still lived at home till they were 30. He's out on his own.
Yeah.
He's in the mill, meaning he's a mover and shaker. He owns his own property. It's costing him zero, and he's out on his own. He has independence. Right?
100%. And the thing I say to people, okay, maybe it's not your end goal, but if that's your first stepping stone to your end goal, how beautiful is that? You know, so he's going to go from this to all of a sudden now he can say, so let's just look at this. In the last year, now I bet you I could sell his house for somewhere in the 550s.
I was about to say, how happy is he going to be when you sell and he sees that profit, the equity profit check?
Exactly.
Right?
And I've tweaked his mind to say, hey, don't sell. Keep that property. Let's take the equity out of there. We'll talk to Ned and we'll get you even better property.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe his second property is also an income property. So he lives upstairs and he rents the basement. But now he has two properties going forward that are both income producing, that 100%. Are both inflating. And then, you know, in 3 to 5 years, he says, you know what, I'm starting a family. I want my own home. Perfect. Now take the equity sum out of both of those two properties and go buy your principal place of residence. You can also use the increase of, like, that's income that's coming from. Use that to help your income to buy your personal place of residence.
I have two clients that came and sat with me when they were 25, and they're 36 and 37 now, and they're in $750,000 homes with $100,000 mortgage.
Beautiful.
They will be mortgage free by the time they're 40.
Beautiful.
Based on using some of my knowledge, some of I think one of them's your client. Some, you know, that's possible. Climbing that ladder is 100% still relevant and possible. Just the numbers have changed.
Yeah.
The process has been the same. Just the numbers have changed.
And that stuff, you know, we'll get into, you know, maybe another episode at some point, and, you know, talk more about the different options of what you can do even off of your mortgage, you know, HELOCs and, you know, paying down the mortgage quicker. And, you know, there's lots of different avenues to really, you know, build equity.
Yeah.
And so that's stuff that we can definitely chat about.
The only awareness that, like, and you would agree with this, is because you're getting the retail side of it. People just kind of assume that, okay, we just got married, or I want to move out, it's time to buy a house. The problem I see is that they go directly to someone like you, which you're an expert in finding them the right home, and you actually know quite a lot about mortgages. But people don't spend enough time getting pre-approved and understanding exactly where they sit. And there's so many people that go headstrong into buying a property, and then I have to pull them back and say, okay, we have to fix your credit. We have to do this. It's going to be a 3-month process, but then after I'm done with you, then go to Pete. And, you know,
absolutely,
the awareness is that we don't live in the time where you can just walk in with a $60,000 or $70,000 paycheck and be like, I'm going to get a $500,000 home.
Yeah.
People need to spend a little bit more time with an agent,
So
and their realtor to kind of formulate a plan. It's really needed now.
100%, and it's something that I'm working on with Brandon, a video series, and it's essentially a buyer's guide.
How to, yeah.
And the first is call an agent. Basically because it's free and we know a whole bunch of info. So on the buy
we don't get paid we get paid on the actual commission side. We don't. The rest is free.
The education is free.
It's the best free value you'll ever get in your life.
Exactly. So call me. Let's have a chat. Any questions? I'm an open book, and I'll tell you anything I know. But the second video is pre-approval.
Yeah.
And the reason is we can't go anywhere without that.
No.
So until we know what you can buy.
Yeah.
We're spinning tires, right? It's like you said about the 100-meter race without a goal, right?
Yeah.
You need to know what. If not, we're looking aimlessly. You might be looking at stuff you can't even afford, which is going to really mess with your emotions along the way.
Yeah.
And or you can't even pull the trigger on something in a fast climate because you don't know if you can. And in these climates, especially right now, it's very, very hot.
Yeah.
You can't put conditions in.
No.
So you have to really be educated in the process and speak to professionals so that you can pull the trigger when you need to.
Yeah. No, you're
in a safe way.
Absolutely 100% correct. Yeah.
So another question I wanted to ask was, what would you tell people if they want to buy a home today, and why should they call you?
So the first part of your why should they buy a home today, I don't think there's any wrong time to buy a home. So let's
agree.
Flat out, I don't. Even the question leads to something that isn't like there's no right or wrong time to buy a home. If we had a crystal ball, which I haven't found that person.
Me
yet,
neither.
Then we could figure out when is a good or a bad time. I think if you look at, we can only study the past on data. There's never been a bad time in the last 15 years.
No.
So people who are waiting for this downfall or this down spike, you're going to wait 10 years for a $50,000 discount.
And good luck trying to time it.
Yeah, and good luck trying to time it. Where if you would have got in already, you would have made that $50,000 already. So, me personally, I've overpaid on every piece of real estate I've ever had. I shoot strong, and I right away, and I'm like, this is my offer, and I secure the real estate. And people have said to me, "Oh, Ned, you're crazy. You paid $50,000 more than what that apartment building's worth." Yeah, but now I'm $1 million ahead.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna step over a loony to pick up a penny? It doesn't make any sense.
100%.
You get what I'm saying?
Great point.
So there's no wrong time. So I don't know how to elaborate on that. The quicker you get in, the more equity you start making, the more wealth you start making.
Absolutely.
And I'm not gonna speculate because I can only look back to the last 15 years.
Yeah.
People will say things about COVID and stuff like that. Sure, there's a concern, but this market is hotter, I believe, now than it was last year in August.
It's insane.
July.
It's insane.
Like I'm
even
getting swamped.
Even during COVID, sales were down considerably, but prices were actually up. And so we haven't seen, unless magically 10,000 houses are going to appear.
Yeah, which they're not. Inventory is slim.
That's the point, right? So supply drives demand, and we don't have 10 offers on that rental property.
Yeah.
I did another one, another property. I was on the buying end. We put an offer, and it was listed at $799 in Stoney Creek.
Yeah.
11 offers. It ended up selling for $870.
Yep. There you go.
So
now,
and that was a couple weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago.
The only thing I could say to your first question is we could break it down very quickly. There's the business side of it, and then there's the home where you want to raise your family and live. Home and where you want to raise your family, there's no wrong time.
100%.
There's no. The more time you wait, the more money you're losing.
Oh, totally agree.
And we can go on facts for the last 15 years.
Yes.
On the business side of it, that's now. I mean, me and you could look at 10 different applicable business ideas for real estate.
Yeah.
That's a wide open question. If there was a more specific, even then, if you look at what's been gained, in the last 15 years, it's only going up. Commercial real estate hasn't really gone down.
No.
And apartment buildings haven't gone down. Rental properties haven't gone down. None of that has. So even on that aspect, there, there's no. Why would you wait?
Yeah, no, 100%. But I'll agree with you that on the business side, you have to be a little more.
You have to consult people.
Yeah, a little more.
You have to have your
really
wits
look
about you.
at the numbers. Make sure that you're going to be able to sustain.
Now
a
it's
loss.
a business. And one thing we haven't touched upon, I want to touch is, if you want to get into the rental game because it's sexy and all your friends are doing it, and you want to monkey see, monkey do, don't talk to Pete. Talk to you. Talk to me. They need to talk to people that know that game, and then you can outline them the pros and cons. Generally, the pros outweigh the cons.
100%.
But if you are, living paycheck to paycheck, and you or me would say maybe this isn't the right thing for
there's
you.
a lot of factors.
Maybe there's a pre-con condo you can get into.
Yeah, if your stress level.
Exactly.
Some people's stress level isn't there for a rental property. I've had people that I've put in it and they're like, I can't take this.
Yeah.
Whereas I have 6, 7, 8 properties. It doesn't faze me. Like, okay, whatever. Here's a phone call. Fix it.
On that end, consult a professional. Second part of your question, why should they use me? One, I've been through the fire. I'm self-made real estate, high net worth guy. There's not much I haven't done myself that I would, that I can't educate or help or advise. Been in the business for 10 years, and because of the brokerage I'm with, and we do such a high volume of deals, we get banks that want our business. So sometimes I can come up with, like, you see my advertised rates. Most people can't touch them. I'm always a 10th, 20th point under, because that's the volume that we do. And unfortunately, when the banks, when you're in the brokering side of it, that means a lot. So we're subject to some better rates than the average mortgage agent is. That's a plus. And sometimes we can, with the sheer knowledge that we possess, we can find a solution that some people can't. So those are my biggest assets. You're going to sit down, you're going to speak with someone that has done exactly what you're trying to do. There's realtors out there that don't own a home. How would you how does that work, right? There's mortgage agents that don't own a mortgage. They're just commission based. They look at it, I'm a sales guy, what can I sell for the biggest amount of commission? That's not me.
100%.
So that would be
and to throw you a little more kudos, I really do think you're somebody that you've done a lot, but you're very down to earth, and you will take the time to explain and give people their options and pros and cons, and so you're somebody that I recommend, and I feel very comfortable recommending that you are going to look out for their best interest.
Yeah.
And like myself, we have been in it a while, but we're also young, and so we want to.
It's an adventure. We're moving forward, and you're a East Hamilton guy, Hamilton Stoney Creek guy. So am I. I can't. My name and my reputation is worth more than anything, so I can't really steer someone wrong, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I have other businesses and other things that will affect that, so it just doesn't make sense. But plus, with a guy like me or you get a whole whack of added value for free.
Yeah, we've done quite a bit.
Yeah,
and you a lot more than me. With you did even the K1 stuff and a
I was overseas for a couple of years and stuff.
Whole bunch of different stuff. So, well. Definitely appreciate you coming on. Definitely appreciate you. Hopefully people enjoyed and got some value with you. I definitely recommend anybody that is looking to get a house and is thinking about getting into the market, even if it's 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, sit down with me, sit down with Ned, sit down with some professionals, ask the questions. What's your mortgage company's called? So
right now I work under Invis. But it's just Ned Kuruc. My main office is with a gentleman called Jor Prewalt and Associates, but this is a satellite office. I just have my blue sign says mortgage office. My Instagram is Ned Kuruc Mortgage Consultant. That's NEDKURUC. My Facebook is Ned Kuruc Mortgage Consultant, and I have a YouTube channel that is very real estate focused. I have 10 or 15 videos on there that the do's and don'ts, and just my personal experience.
Yeah.
And it's just called Ned Kuruc, NEDKURUC.
Awesome. So we'll definitely have Brandon put up some your contacts and all your information. If anybody wants to get a hold of you as well, to call me. I'll put you in touch with Ned. And again, it's free education.
Sure.
And we're here to help. So awesome. Really do appreciate having you, and look forward to growing with you together, my friend.
For sure.
Cheers, man.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cheers.